You want to be an influencer. Everyone does. And everyone's going to tell you it's just about consistency, authenticity, finding your niche, showing up every day. What nobody's going to tell you is what happens on the inside when you become content. Not a content creator. Content. Stay. This will be shorter than your patience and longer than your illusion. You're in your 20s, maybe your late teens, maybe 32, and tired of pretending you're not. The age doesn't matter as much as the feeling, and the feeling is that the life you're living is too small for who you think you are. The cubicle smells like recycled air and performance reviews that never quite add up to a raise. The apartment has walls that know your name, but do nothing useful with that information. You watch someone on your phone talking about their life, their actual life, and you think, I could do that. Not because it's easy, because it looks real, because it looks like something that matters. You have a voice. You have a phone that shoots in 4K. You have opinions that feel sharper than the ones you hear on TV. You have the specific sensation that the world would be slightly better if people could just hear what you actually think about things, and that if they heard you, they'd get it. That feeling has a name. It's called hope. And for now, it still doesn't cost you anything. You think about your college friend, the one who's been there since freshman year, who's going to be the first to share everything. You think about your parents who are going to finally understand what you do for a living. You think about the unmade bed that's going to appear in the background of your videos before you can afford a ring light. Those three things, the friendship, the family, the messy room, you still have them. Hold that image, because those are exactly the first things that change. The first video does well enough. Not viral, not perfect, but well. 11,000 views in 4 days on an account with 300 followers. You check that number at midnight, sitting on the floor of your bedroom with the phone screen lighting up your face, and you feel something in your chest that's hard to name. It's warmth. It's recognition. It's the first time something you made reached people who've never seen you before, and they stayed. They watched until the end. You go to sleep late. Very late. Refreshing notifications with a smile you didn't plan on having. Here's what nobody tells you about that moment. That moment is the ceiling. You don't know it yet, but the dopamine you just felt requires progressively larger doses to produce the same effect. 11,000 is going to feel like nothing in 6 months. And you're going to feel exactly the way you felt before, just with more obligations. The high lasts 2 days. The algorithm has no emotional memory. In the first few weeks, you still have an identity. You're still the person who makes videos about cooking or sports or politics or your own life. But you're still a person with other things too. You still go to Trader Joe's without mentally framing the produce aisle as a potential B-roll shot. You still have conversations without calculating what their engagement rate would be if you posted them. But something starts shifting in your relationships. It's slow enough that you almost miss it. The college friend starts showing up in your comments. At first you think it's sweet, then you notice she's always a little late, commenting when the post already has 2,000 replies. Her words buried beneath strangers. She never shares. And when you see her in person, she asks about your numbers before she asks how you're sleeping. You don't know yet if that's jealousy, pride, or just the fact that the only version of you she can access now is the published version, the edited one, the one with good lighting. You start posting more, not because you have more to say, because the algorithm punishes silence like it's a confession. Your parents, who you thought would understand, don't understand. Not out of cruelty, out of vocabulary. Your dad asks how many people watched, and you explain that it's more complicated than that there's reach and impressions and retention rate and click-through, and he nods in the way that means he's rooting for you without comprehending a single word of what you actually do. And there is something profoundly lonely about being rooted for by people who can't quite see you. You wouldn't call this isolation yet. You'd call it growth. 3 months in, you have 10 times more followers. You also have a running list of things you can no longer do without calculating how they'll look. You can't have a genuine negative reaction to a brand that sent you free product. You can't post on a Tuesday if your analytics show Tuesday performs below average. You can't have a bad week without staying up until 2 a.m. restructuring your content strategy like it's open heart surgery and you're both the patient and the surgeon. There's a word you're going to hear constantly in this world: authenticity. The brands want it. Your audience demands it. Other creators preach it at panels in Austin and Los Angeles like it's a religion. Be authentic, be real, be yourself. And simultaneously, don't say that, don't post that, don't look like that, don't touch that topic. The authenticity they're asking for is a curated authenticity, compressed into 60 seconds, optimized for completion rate, with a call to action and 3 relevant hashtags. You start to feel suspended. You don't belong to the old world, the 9 to 5, the performance review, the recycled office air. But you also don't belong to the world on the conference stage, where creators talk about freedom and purpose in front of well-designed slides. You're in the middle. And the middle has no community, no union, no health insurance, and no one to call when a video tanks and you need to talk to someone who actually understands why it matters. You look at other creators in your niche and try to decide if they're allies or competition. You set up a collaboration with someone and spend the entire week silently calculating who got more out of the deal. You unfollow accounts because watching their performance makes your own feel smaller, and you call this curating your feed. The paranoia builds slowly. At first, you think a comment is a veiled criticism. Then you start assuming every DM compliment contains a hidden ask. Then you stop replying to comments altogether because anything you say can be screenshotted, stripped of context, and turned into drama. You learn that on the internet, context is optional, and outrage is load-bearing infrastructure. There's a specific night you're going to remember. You're eating dinner alone, takeout from the Thai place 2 blocks away, and your phone is propped against the container showing your analytics dashboard in real time while you eat. You realize you don't know how long you've been doing this, eating with the numbers instead of eating. And you also realize there's nobody you'd want to call right now who would understand why those numbers feel like they matter more than the food. That dinner tastes a lot like having gone too far to go back. Here's what the data says about the world you walked into. In 2023, creator platform Linktree surveyed over 900 creators across multiple platforms and industries. Only 4% of them earned more than $100,000 a year. You just read that and thought, but I'll be in that 4%. Of course you did. Everyone thinks that. It is mathematically impossible for everyone to be right. But sit with another part of that same study. 46% of creators reported moderate to severe anxiety directly tied to content performance. Not to life, to content, to the retention rate of a 9-minute video. This isn't imposter syndrome. This is an entire employment sector that monetizes your mental health before it pays you. Here's the one that lands differently. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology conducted at the University of Pennsylvania found that limiting social media use to 30 minutes per day led to significant reductions in loneliness and depression in just 3 weeks. 3 weeks. You, who live inside these platforms, who depend on them financially, who cannot survive professionally without them, you just read that sentence and felt exactly what someone feels when they find out they're allergic to the only food in the house. And then there's Hank Green, author, YouTuber, co-founder of VidCon, one of the most respected long-term creators on the internet. In 2019, he wrote publicly about the emotional cost of building a platform over many years, about how performance pressure seeps into every corner of your life, about how you learn to see the entire world as material rather than experience. Hank Green has passionate fans, real cultural impact, financial stability, and a legacy that most creators will never touch. And he still had to stop and name the problem out loud just to be able to breathe. If he had to name it, what does that say about you, still trying to convince yourself there's no problem? The number of active YouTube channels crossed 51 million in 2024. 51 million. YouTube pays meaningful monetization to a tiny fraction of that number. The math isn't working against you by accident. The math is the business model. The more creators creating, the more free content for the platform. More content means more watch time. More watch time means more ad revenue. You are not the product the platform sells. You are the factory that manufactures the product for free, in the hope that one day you'll get to participate in the profits. The platform didn't fail you. It worked exactly as designed. It just wasn't designed for you. There's a moment, a specific, concrete moment with a time and a place. For a lot of creators, it happens in an airport, in a boarding line, phone in hand, watching the numbers on a video that took 3 weeks to make perform worse than something you threw together in 40 minutes on a day you didn't feel like filming. For others, it happens in a brand meeting, when you realize you're nodding and smiling at values that contradict your own. And the smile doesn't even feel heavy anymore, because you've rehearsed it so many times it fires automatically. For some, it happens the moment a follower sends a message that says, "This video helped me through the hardest week of my life," and before the warmth hits, before the gratitude lands, the calculator in your head is already running. How much engagement will this generate if I reply publicly? You catch yourself converting someone else's pain into a growth strategy. You know you're not a bad person. You know the system trained you to think this way, but knowing where the reflex comes from doesn't erase the reflex. The truth that crystallizes in that moment isn't about the platforms. It's not about the algorithm. It's about what happens to human identity when it's subjected to continuous performance metrics. You didn't change because you're weak or because you sold out. You change because no human being can spend years being evaluated numerically in real time without reorganizing their entire psychology around that evaluation. You didn't choose this. You were conditioned into it, the same way lab rats learn to press levers when the reward is intermittent and unpredictable. You know what researchers call intermittent, unpredictable reward? The single most powerful behavioral conditioning mechanism ever identified. You know what your notification feed is? Exactly that. You came in wanting to be seen. You didn't know that being seen at industrial scale produces the same effect as no specific gaze at all. That 1 million people watching the same clip at the same time is not connection. It's broadcast. And you, at the center of it, are lonelier than the friend who comments on your posts a little too late. So where does that leave you? You know the numbers now. You know the cost. You know the mechanism. And you're probably going to keep going anyway. Not because you're naive. Because you left the old world and the old world isn't holding your place. Because you built a real skill and it only exists inside this ecosystem. Because there are days, real days, when someone sends a message saying something you made change the way they see something, and that specific thing has no price tag and no substitute. And you'll sleep well that night. But you'll sleep knowing. You'll create knowing. You'll post with full awareness of what you're trading for every number that ticks upward on that screen. You'll build with your eyes open instead of chasing the light that keeps promising the next video will be different, bigger, freer, finally the one that makes all of this worth it. The freedom they sold you comes with an exclusivity clause, and the termination fee is you. You came in wanting to be seen. You didn't realize the camera points both ways, and the longer people watch, the less of yourself you recognize in the frame. The content lives forever. The person who made it, much less so.